Center, Moriches, New York, 10th of March 2004, approximately 9:30 a.m. The interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My name is Carl Davidson, and I was born in Sheepshead Bay, New York, in 1922, 10/10/22.
Okay.
So I'm 81 now.
All right. Before you went into service, what was your educational background?
Very poor, to say the least. I lived in 12 or 13 different houses, so consequently I never really learned to read right. But I never had any problem other than I only have one eye. And so in school my name was Kazumoto, which was kind of rough.
Yes.
However, in school I was very, very good at track and field and stuff like that. I always made my medals, and coaches liked me, and the teacher that taught math and stuff like that, he liked me because he also taught manual training And during that period, this was in Mineola, I did build a diving helmet in school that worked. And we use it in the Sea Scout ship.
Wow.
Whenever the ship wasn't clean enough, we'd break out the diving helmet and throw a Sea Scout plaque overboard, and then I'd put the diving helmet on and go down and pick it up, and we got extra credit. Could kind of bring us up a little bit.
Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Absolutely. I was a stock clerk in Hempstead for a place called Unita Clothes. And I remember we all walked out on the main street, which would have been Franklin Avenue, I believe, and we saw planes coming out of Mitchell Field. That part, up to there I remember. And right after that, that was December 7th. That following week, I went into New York and signed down with Mara Chapman Scott, which is Salvage company. And I guess that was January 5th, I was already in. And then I banged around the harbor doing different things for Mara Chapman, loading tanks and whatever had to be done. And one of the things there, when you come right out of school, with Chapman, everybody, Mara Chapman, spliced wire. And at a later date in my life, that came very important. Because when I had left Chapman, I went in that harbor pool, and when I brought one of those boats back, and we put it up on deck, the chief mate inquired about my background, and I told him I worked for Mara Chapman and that I'd been on the Normandy and I'd been on a lot of other wrecks up and down the coast. And he said, he bet I spliced wire, and I said, yes. So he said, how would you like to go to England tomorrow? And I said, I can't go to England, he wouldn't let me go here. He said, yeah, I'll let you go. And I do have papers in my pouch there that shows that they requested, they have me to go on the CTrain. And the CTrain, we went to Cardiff and Swansea, and we just unloaded tanks because we had to.
Now, what was a CTrain?
I have a picture of it here. You want to see it?
Well, yes. And what was its job?
Prior to the war, it carried 100 freight cars refrigerated out of Florida and Texas. And so when the war came, naturally the government took it over. There was 4 ships like that. There was New York, New Jersey, I think Florida and Texas. But I only had seen 2. The one I was on was Texas. And it only has 1 hole in it. And what the Army did, they cemented over all the decks because we had 4 railroad tracks thick and 4 railroad tracks wide to carry all that stuff. And because then they did all the refrigerator stuff they took out. And they made a place there for the soldiers that would run these tanks. And we could load, I believe around 160 we took at a clip. So we were a wanted ship. Sometimes we went by ourselves, other times in convoy. And we would go, from here up to Boston, pick up a convoy, and then go all the way up and then come down into the Irish Sea and then go into the Bristol Channel. And we could go to any dock because we unload ourselves. We didn't have to have the big cranes over, the water cranes over there. Because the water cranes, they can work them all night because you can't hear them. They just pump water back and forth to make the weight and pick stuff up. And then from I made 4 crossings, 4 trips, so it would be 8 crossings. And that was all in early '43. then later on, I came, and while I was working at Chapman, they had asked me about that splicing, which, you know, a lot of the fellas didn't do, but Chapman, everybody did it because it was part of the job.
Now, you were in the Merchant Marines at this time?
Not yet.
No, yet?
I was in the Merchant Marine at Mara Chapman Scott.
Okay.
And at that time, when the chief engineer I was working with took me down to the barge office and got me my papers.
Now, then with the CTrain, what were you considered? Just a seaman on a private contractor?
Actually, he called me a day man there because I had the one eye. And I was not supposed to wheel, but I wheeled awful lot.
Now, what do you mean by wheel?
Steer the ship.
Okay.
And that happened at another time. I was bringing a tanker out of Houston, Texas, and he had an ordinary, and he told him he could wheel, and he couldn't. And the captain came out and said, "Can you wheel?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "You're an able-bodied seaman now." And, of course, I can't carry an able-bodied seaman. It's not even on my ticket. So then I wheeled all the way back up to Jersey, up to the Gulfport there in Kill.
So at this time you were was it with a private contractor?
Yeah, well, we were the shipping company.
Shipping company.
That would be Gulf at that time. And I was with Sinclair Oberlin on another ship a tanker. And, and I was on, later on, I was on a Victory ship, and I think I made 9 trips of the 18 crossings. First we took soldiers over and prisoners back here, and then as it went on, first we would be like bringing soldiers over to England, and later on we were picking up the German soldiers in Marseille, so that'd be in the Mediterranean. We brought them here, and then we were bringing soldiers back to Le Havre, and then from Le Havre we were taking German soldiers back here, and later on it switched around the other way. We were bringing the Americans home and taking the Germans back over there. And at one trip into Antwerp, see, it was Marseille, Le Havre, Antwerp, and then Bremerhaven. And this was as the war was moving. So then, one trip we took over the dignitaries that were going into Antwerp. Like it was we had ladies on the ship and everything. It was one whole, once in a while we did carry wax over. And generally these were, and that was fun too, because the captain always had to come down and talk to all these people when he got them all. We carried about 1,200 soldiers at a clip. And he would come down and he'd talk to the wax. He'd say, "You know, I need to have a secretary. You the blonde. You must type." And there's a couple of fun things on that too. One of the mates that I knew, he was on the ship with us, and as bosun, I'm all over the ship. Because the first thing a bosun does in the morning, you sound all tanks, you check all lifeboats, and everything like that. You just go around on all the safety stuff and make sure, because the reason for checking all the tanks is they sometimes get too much water on one side or too much oil taken off of this one, and you always have to keep leveling the ship up. So this one time I was, in the evening I was walking around, and I saw the second mate, and he was up on the bridge, but he was on the outside of where they steer. And the captain's room was right below it, and that's the deck he was on. And he knocked on the window, and one of the gals opened up the window, and he crawled in there, because the captain and one of the transportation officers were having a meeting in the big room there on the ship. And so at a later date, I was standing with the second mate, and I said, "Chief, what's all over your pants?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Looks like porthole paint." So I had a good trip on that one. Nobody bothered me there. And as far as the merchant seamen's things on the ship, we actually were in the magazines and loaded the containers of whatever needed, with blue, green, white, and red, like mostly 20 Miller and 40s. And then we bring them up out of the magazine, because the magazine's below the waterline on those ships. And then we put them in the ready boxes. And they're always tipped as the ship rolls. They can't fall out then, say. And you have to put shells up in there, whatever they need for. So, and then in the tubs themselves, the only thing the merchant seaman did was hot shells. Otherwise, when they shot something, as soon as I come out, you had asbestos on, you'd get it the hell out of the tub. And the only other jobs that I had was like dropping the anchor and picking it up, or checking the deck, getting ready to, because when you get to sea, that's when your work starts. You know, you paint stuff aloft and check all the blocks, because if everything isn't running when you get there, you got a problem, because that's time.
Now, you mentioned on the ships you were on, you were in the Atlantic and the Pacific and the Mediterranean theaters.
Yeah, I was in all of them.
Yeah. Now, did you ever receive campaign ribbons or anything?
No, we have to buy those. Merchant seamen buy them, and then you get letters from the president and all that kind of nonsense too, you know.
So you receive these?
No, you go over and buy them in Kings Point. They send a letter what you can buy, and you can go over and buy them if you want them.
Well, you were in a way kind of quote awarded them because you were in all these different theaters, but you had to purchase your own.
Oh yeah, they didn't hand them out. You went down and paid for them. In fact, it says the price on them, $21.
So even though you in a way, if you were in the Navy or so on, you would have earned these, but you had to purchase them on your own.
We had to purchase it on our own. It was just different that way. I have letters from Truman, you know, and stuff like that, which is kind of nice. You edit all this stuff, I hope.
Pardon me?
No.
Nope, oh jeez.
You want to? Now, what are these in this?
Well, it should say right on it, Mediterranean, Atlantic, Pacific, it says things. These are for like on your hat, and this you put on your
Okay, so this is your Atlantic theater. This is when you're in the Pacific.
And that should be Mediterranean.
All right, these are just, I think these are...
Well, that says Mediterranean on the bottom.
Oh, yes, I see that. Middle East.
Yeah.
And the Victory Medal.
Yeah.
Merchant Marine Victory Medal.
I thought you might be interested in looking at it.
Yes. That's interesting. I don't think I was ever aware that you had to purchase your own.
Oh, yeah, you go down to Kings Point.
Yes, but I mean, even though you were, anyone else would have been awarded them in the other branches, you had to purchase them on your own.
Well, see, Merchant Seaman actually was a civilian employed by the Army, Navy, or whoever it was we were working for on the ships.
Now, could you maybe give us some stories about some of your trips and that were kind of interesting, that you thought were the most interesting?
I think every trip has something that's fun, because we didn't take it. I mean, we knew it was a war and everything like that, but a lot of the older fellas, this was just their trade, and the younger fellas, you know, you have one kid, you have half a man. You have two kids, you have no men. And that's true. So, but I got along. I only had one problem with one ship, and it was between me and the captain. He was 21, and I was probably 20. I picked him up in Boston, and it was a hot job. And so...
Now, what do you mean by a hot job?
They were waiting for the last man to get, so they had a full crew. When that last man steps on the ship, the gangplank goes right up behind him, and you're gone. And they didn't have somebody up in Boston, and I was in New York at the time, and they wanted a bosun. And in the Merchant Marine, you throw your card in, and if you have the oldest card that you haven't worked, like 3 guys throw it in, maybe one got off a month ago, 2 months ago, one guy 3 months ago, but he automatically gets the opportunity to take that ship if he wants it. And then so they sent me up to Boston. I walked on the ship to pull the gangway plank behind me, and we went out of Boston down in Norfolk. We loaded 10,000 tons of frozen food. Then we went to Panama, and in Panama, you go in on the Atlantic side, and then you go through all the locks, and then we're in Balboa. So we stop at Balboa, we reload water, we reload all the oil we need, and in the meantime, we couldn't go ashore other than where the fence was. So you go up to the fence, and there's always a couple of people out there that want to help you. And so they go get you bananas, they get you ice cream and things like that. And so the crew put the money together, and so we got ice cream, and we just took it and threw it in the hole because the hole was freezing anyway, frozen anyway. Those holes, they were all, made that way. And then we got green bananas, and we used to put them in the starboard side, hanging outside, because the sun was on the other side, would ripen them too fast. So we had bananas all the way over to Pearl Harbor, and then we went to Ford Island in Pearl Harbor, and we unloaded there. And then from there we went back to San Francisco. And most of the way the captain didn't like me, and I didn't particularly care for him too much. And that particular ship was originally made for lumber. So the rigging is entirely different than any other ship, because they have to swing heavy lumber around, and the way it's made just made different. Normally a boom sticking up like that would have 2 lines on it to move it. Well, these had 2 lines out here and a cross line up there, so the lumber didn't hit anything. And I had never worked with that, so I screwed that up once. Then I figured it out, but still the once was enough for the captain not to like me. And so when we came back to San Francisco, I got off by mutual consent, which is normal with the merchant marine. You can come and go as you want, because you're still just a civilian at that time. That's when I came back to New York, and I got that M.I.T. victory. I don't know what else I can tell you about that stuff. And now let's see, the trips over to England were very, very, very nice, because I met nice people there. I had a girlfriend at the time, so I wasn't fooling around with anything, and I never drank, so my job was, when we got ready to go, I had to go down to the gin mills and pull the guys out, because if you sent a guy down to drink, he'd stay there with him, we'd lose 2 rather than 1.
Were you ever fired upon or under attack at all?
No, I was in a bad convoy that there were submarines about us. And then another time, one of the guys had a motorcycle, and he had it down in the bosun stores in the rear of the ship, right in the stern. And he was playing with it, getting it going. And when he did, they picked up the signal and thought there was a submarine underneath us. So they were throwing depth charges all the hell around us, and that was fun. But that was his last trip on that ship. So there's a lot of little fun things that happen on the ships, at different times. That you try to, because you can't go anywhere. You're 540 feet, and you step in the water.
Now, did you ever do salvage diving?
With Chapman?
During the military, during the war?
Well, only with Mara Chapman I did diving. I didn't do a lot of it there, because the stuff that I would have done or could have done, I didn't have the background. I just came out of school. But, I know how to dive. That was the same fact. And of course I still dive. I dive regularly.
By salvage diving, did you use like a cutting torch underwater or welder?
No, but the fellas I worked with, I generally tended. And so I knew what the rigs were. The torches would have 3 different tanks, 1 for burning, and the other 2 made a cone of air to keep the fire on, because you lit it here and then took it down. Today they can strike it underwater and light it up, but they couldn't then. And they were the fellas that I dove with, they were mostly mechanics off the heavy industry. And so they had a background in tools and the whole bit, which I didn't have. I mean, I knew the mechanics of the diving part, and that's from reading books. And the teacher that I had there was called Bill Ilger, and Bill Ilger worked for Chapman, and he brought up the hull of the first ship in the United States. It was called a Philadelphia. It was about 40 feet long, and it had a cannon on the bow, and it was up in the lakes.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You probably remember that. I think that's down in
the Smithsonian.
Smithsonian.
Yes, yeah.
Well, and he lived in Ronkonkoma. Bill Ilger, I got pictures of him here. Later on, you can look at him and give you an idea when you're putting this thing together. And I got pictures of the chief also were with him, my chief, and he liked me, thought I was a nice kid. But they still use that thing, one kid is a half a man. No matter how you do it, that's what you were.
Okay. Do you want to show us some of the pictures then you brought in?
Okay.
Why don't you show us the family picture there first?
I got the ladies in the car too, but...
If you just hold it like there, Wayne can focus on it and move across it as you talk about it.
I'm going to talk... this is the father that raised me, and he was a very good man. He was in World War I, World War II. When my one brother wanted to go in service in the Navy, his name was John, he's over here, my mother had said, no, I don't think so, because your older brothers are in, and I don't want more in. So Pop said, well, I'll go down with him and make sure everything is all right. Well, of course, when Pop came back, he went in too. So this would be my father that raised me. This is my older brother, Charles, and my pop was one of the guys on a DE. He was with a killer group, and the name of there was a small pocket aircraft carrier called the Guadalcanal. And he was with that group, and it was a killer group. And they had training. If they ever got a submarine on the surface, they go in and jump in the submarine. These were all volunteers, and which Pop did. And they got the code machines, and he got a presidential citation for that. But he couldn't tell anybody about it till after the war. However, I have a package of cigarettes that came off the 505 submarine that's over in...
So they're the ones that captured the 505 and brought it to the surface.
Right.
And
I have a pack of cigarettes off that submarine right here. I'll show it to you in a little while. And this brother, from early schooling, he was always in boating. And by the time he got 21, he had enough time in to take a captain in the Merchant Marine. And the last thing that I remember that he was doing was he was running the ferry boat between Ford Island and Hawaii. That's where he got his papers, and it's all written down. And then I come next, and I only had one eye, so I couldn't get in anything, but I did get into the Merchant Marine eventually. And I was Atlantic, Pacific, and Mediterranean. This brother, he went into the Seabees, and he was in Alaska. This brother was a medic, and he was down in Florida at the air base where the water planes come in, and on a crash boat. And then later on, he went into Iwo Jima and one other bad one, I don't remember which is the other one. And eventually he was in Japan and China. And this is my younger boy, and he was in the Vietnam time, and this boy was too young. That's my son.
so all of your family, though, survived?
Yes, there's no gold stars in our flag. You'll notice that. I don't know where you want it here.
That's fine there.
Hold it right there for a minute.
There's no gold stars in that.
And this hung in your mother's front window of the house.
Right, that's where it was in one. And the funny part of it is, I had given this to a very, very big collector of military stuff. And when I put this together, I went back to see him, and he'd given it to somebody else, so I had to go find him. And I brought this big picture with me at the time, and I said, you still have that 5-star flag? He says, yeah. I said, I'd like to buy it back. And so when I showed him pictures, he says, "You can't buy that back. I'll give it to you."
That was nice.
And he gave it back to me. He said, "That's where it belongs."
Okay.
Okay? Must be another back. Here's the cigarettes from the 505. It's the German cigarettes my father brought me back, but he couldn't tell me where he was.
Okay.
Okay.
Two packs of them.
Okay.
Oh, I have to give you one more little thing here that you must know. The father that I said raised me, he married Mom in 1933, because my real father was a sea captain also. He was in World War I, World War II, and he got blown up in Korea. And he had a big write-up on him in Reader's Digest. That's my real father, and he's named after me because he kept the name of Roy. We were all Roy to begin with, and then we all took Davidson so that we'd be like our mothers in school. And this is part of the write-up from the Reader's Digest.
Okay. Anything else?
No, only that the background of the going to sea still carried me through to be diving when they brought out scuba, and I still do it, and I still trace around and raise a little heck.
Now, are you able to join the American Legion, or?
Yes,
You are.
I am.
You're
Yes, I have it here. I am now a veteran, which of course before I wasn't.
Now you can also join the VFW too?
Yes,
Okay.
right. Wait a minute here, I have it here somewhere.
Have you been able to take advantage of any veterans' benefits at all?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
What's this one here? This Podunk Lodge. They got some trouble with it. That one up in what do you call it? Oh, shoot.
now. Were you ever able to use the GI Bill at all, or? were
Yes,
you eligible?
my wife is in Calverton, and I'll go in with her later on. And I have very, very nice friends over there. I made pictures like this for them over there. One particular picture, I should have had that thing here, but I don't know where the heck it is. But I do have a VA card. I'm trying to find what the heck they did with it.
Well, that's all right if you can't find it.
No. How do you think being in the service, the Merchant Marine service, obviously it has, but how has it affected your life?
In many ways, very nice. Firstly, you know what your fathers did and things like that, so that's why all of these things represent. Shoot, it must be here somewhere. Darn thing. Oh, that's something different. Well, I know I have it.
That's all right.
Oh, wait a minute, here it is, I got it.
Okay, got it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for your interview.
Oh, you're sure welcome.